Hello and welcome to another episode of In the Trenches with Gang Green. I'm your host, Bubbs. Today is Wednesday, May 29th. Hopefully everybody is having a good day so far. We've got a lot to discuss today on the podcast as it was day number 5 of New York Jets OTAs out at One Jets Drive in Florham Park. A lot to discuss today. The New York Jets not only had practice, but they also made a signing as Tarik Cohen, running back, who has spent the last 3 seasons dealing with injury, dealing with just not being able to stay healthy, not being able to remain healthy, unfortunately, has spent the last 3 seasons or 3 seasons out of football, but he is back. The New York Jets bring him in. The kick return running back specialist joins the New York Jets, so we'll break it all down today on the podcast. This is episode 311 of the In the Trenches with Gang Green podcast. I thank you, as always, for joining me. Make sure, if you haven't already, to please like and subscribe, setting a goal of 1,000 subscribers by week 1, Jets Niners on Monday Night Football. So a lot to be excited about if you're a New York Jet fan. And as we mentioned, day number 5 of OTAs this afternoon, as the New York Jets made a signing and, of course, had day number 5 of OTA. So Robert Saleh spoke today. We'll break that down first. Then we will get into the Tarik Cohen signing. And then we'll get into Aaron Rodgers, what he did today at practice, performances, standouts, kind of an overall practice report as we always do, and just some other practice notes and stuff like that before we get you on your way here on this Wednesday evening, May 29th. Almost June, almost just 1 month until training camp will begin in late July. So a lot to be excited about if you're a football fan, especially if you're a New York Jets fan. So let's get to the Robert Saleh stuff today to open up the show here. Just some quick, I guess, housekeeping stuff, if you want to call it, whatever you want to call it here. Just some quick stuff right off the bat to get into. The New York Jets will have 3 joint practices this year. 2 will come at home. 1 will be on the road. The Jets will have a home practice only 1 day against the New York Giants, and they will have 2 home practices, 1 day against the Giants, and then they'll also have home practices against the Commanders, as their first preseason game will be at MetLife Stadium against the Washington Commanders. The New York Jets will also have a 3rd joint practice on the road in Carolina. This will be the 2nd year in a row that the New York Jets will head to Carolina for a joint practice. Last year, if you remember, they were there for 2 days. They also had that preseason game. This year will be the same thing. They will head back to Carolina, head back to against the Panthers, a year on practice against those 2 teams. And it's interesting, 3 joint practices this year. Not often do you see that. A lot of times it's just 2 joint practices. It's usually a home one. It was last year for the Jets. They were home against the Buccaneers, and they were away against the Carolina Panthers. The year before that, of course, they had the practice against the Giants. And I believe that the year that they had Atlanta there as well. They had Atlanta home, and they were in training facility. And I believe 2021 might have been the year where they had Philly. But either way, that's usually, most teams usually have 2 joint practices, 2 practice dates against specific teams. This year, the Jets will have 3. Mind you, though, the New York Giants will only be a 1-day thing, similar to what it was back in 2020. 2 teams had a joint practice, or 22 teams had a joint practice over at the Giants training facility across the parking lot for MetLife Stadium, the home of both those teams. So, the bat, those are the joint practice. I love joint practice. Players do, coaches do. We all know it. Actual preseason games, quarterbacks can't get hit, and typically you get that good intensity, you get a lot of good reps, you get a lot of good evaluation from it, but you also usually tend to walk away with a whole lot less injuries, a whole lot less injury risk, and you still feel like you're getting the same amount of work in as you're getting in in game where, it feels like the injury risk is a little bit higher for the quarterbacks in there. Rodgers. Update there. Mike there with the injuries. He was back at the facility. Has a good for the New York Jets. He is rehabbing. No timetable yet. Saleh continues to say he's progressing well. He looks good. I think all fans hit it on the head here. I think we're all expecting him to probably follow along that Brees table where he is going to be sometime in August that we see him. The New York Jets, of course, Garrett Wilson, your number one guy, Malachi Corley there. You hope that those guys can kind of ride the wave a little bit. Maybe you get some surprising guys behind them, and then you hope that Mike Williams is able to come in August, start to build up reps, start to build up confidence in that ACL, and ultimately back ready to go. Might be off to a little bit of a slow start, but then again, we said the same thing last year about Brees Hall. The first 4 weeks for Brees, it's going to be a filling out. Little do we know, Down has an 82-yard run against the Buffalo Bills. So it might be the same thing with Mike Williams, where we are sitting here in May saying, it's going to take him a couple weeks. It might take him, 2, 3, 4 weeks into the season before to see the full Mike Williams. But who knows? It might be something like Brees Hall where Mike Williams goes out there, has a huge game 1, and he's back like he never left. So we'll see what all that happens. But Mike Williams, it's good to see that he's back at the facility, getting back into the groove of things. All right, now on to some more meaningful than just the Mike Williams update. And, of course, practices. Saleh spoke on Tarik Cohen. He was pretty fired up about it. He said, quote, explosive play. And what Saleh said is explosive playmaker, starting to get back healthy with the new kickoff rules. They're going to touch the ball over 100 times per year. For a guy like him, he's still young. We're excited to have him, end quote. So that's what Saleh had to say on Cohen. Interesting to note, the Jets have really spoke a lot this offseason. It's really one of the biggest storylines going into the NFL season is the kickoffs, what it's going to look like, how it's going to go, what to expect. It's really going to be interesting to see how teams handle it. The New York Jets last year rolled out Xavier Gipson, as we all know, and Saleh mentioned that he still kind of got the inside track. He was the guy last year. He is still the guy to beat, but there is a lot of competition there, a lot of competition just in general, not even just kick returning, punt returning on special teams, but other special team spots that'll be potentially up for grabs here in training camp. But, Saleh mentioning with the new he said, quote, with the new kickoff rules, they're going to touch the ball over 100 times per year is crazy to think, considering last year, the team with the most kickoff returns was the Green Bay Packers. They had 31. So what Saleh is saying is we should expect 69 to 70 potentially more kickoff returns than what we saw last year, where the Packers led the league with 31. So it's really interesting to see how all 32 teams handle this, especially the Jets. The Jets have a lot of options they could go to as, for special team spots. And Tarik Cohen's a guy that they clearly like. It seems like a guy that they've been interested in over the last couple of years. He mentioned how, Brant Boyer's a big fan of his, was really fired up to get him. So it's going to be a good battle between him and Gipson. And who knows, maybe Cohen, maybe not as much of a fact. I think you're bringing him in to push Gipson a little bit and potentially win out that kick returning job. That's what his specialty is kick returns. But also he'll kind of get that chance too to fight for that fourth running back spot, which seems like it'll probably be between Cohen and Izzy. So it'll be interesting to see how all that plays out. Saleh also went on to continue to comment on his role with the offense, the bigger role, which we heard about last press conference that he held, about how he was planning on taking a bigger, or Rodgers mentioned rather, that he was planning on taking a bigger role, wanted to take a bigger role after what happened last year, has given the Jets some good ideas on offense, has been inside the meetings. And I think if you're a Jets fan, you've got it. It's a welcome sight. While it's year 4 of Robert Saleh, and for 3 years now, we've been, just day in and day out. It feels like every single day during the regular season, all we're talking about at times is Saleh with the offense, where He wouldn't even go over there, do, adjustments, no accountability, all that stuff, where we thought we were getting a CEO type coach when Robert Saleh was hired, and we've gotten nothing close to that. So it's been pretty disappointing. That's why it's a welcome sight. It's like finally better late than never. Year 4, finally starting to get his nose in the offense. But again, he kind of continues to talk about having belief in Hackett, while still having the, bigger role in the offense. This is what he had to say. For me, last year was year 1 with Hackett. A lot of learning for me. First time I've been a part of an offense with a quarterback who has such a voice. It's year 2. It's a natural evolution. I have a really good grasp of the offense. It's just trying to provide insight from a defensive perspective. And Saleh's continuing to, defend Hackett. But as much as Saleh can sit here and say it's a natural evolution, I've got a good grasp, I'm providing a defense perspective, I think we know why Saleh has a bigger role in the offense. It's not because of, last year was a learning curve, now let me do that, because technically year 1 should have been when you were learning. It's because of the fact that Nathaniel Hackett's not any good. Robert Saleh realizes this is his year. Like, this is it. If this season goes off the rails, he's gone. And he realizes maybe it'll be smart for me. Maybe it's a good idea that I do what I was hired to do. And that's be a CEO type coach that oversees everything and holds all 3 phases accountable, which he hasn't done. His defense is great, but he's a head coach, not a defensive coordinator. So I think this is still a lot of Saleh saying, I don't have much trust in Hackett. As much as he could sugarcoat things on Hackett and say, we're all learning, we're all getting better, you don't try and replace a guy if you trust him. Let's just, that's phase number 1 of this all. Let alone 2, you don't all of a sudden year 4 say, let me get my nose into the offense now, if you clearly weren't concerned about maybe things that are going on inside those walls. So that's the way I see it. But again, I think we're all excited to see not excited, but I think we're all a little sigh of relief that it's like finally Saleh's. Now, I'm not saying just because Saleh is involved a little bit more in the offense now, the Jets are going to win 14 games because of it, and the offense is going to be number 1 in football, and Aaron Rodgers is going to be back to his MVP self. No. Robert Saleh is not going to be the savior of this offense. It's ultimately still going to come down to Aaron Rodgers. But having somebody kind of oversee things, especially after a pitiful year from Hackett, is certainly something that should give you a little bit of confidence if you're a Jet fan, but only time will tell. So that's the Saleh stuff. Now on to more Tarik Cohen and what he brings to the table. Interesting career so far for him. Very solid player his first 4 years, and unfortunately just been derailed due to injury. Some background information. He's 5'6", 181 pounds. He's 28 years old. He'll be 29 in July. So when week 1 rolls around, he will be 29 years old. He was a 2017 4th-round pick, 119th overall by the Chicago Bears, went to North Carolina A&T. 4 seasons with Chicago. Early in his career, was a very productive player, very solid, reliable. And then 2020 hit where he had only played 3 games, missed 13 games that season, back when, of course, they played 16 games, missed 13 games that season. And ever since, that hasn't been the same. He's been trying to work his way back, but hasn't been able to get back on the football field since 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, all 3 of the last 3 seasons. He has been out due to injuries, not being able to get healthy enough, re-injuring stuff, all that stuff. So it's been really unfortunate for him. What looked like a really solid start to a successful, productive career quickly derailed, and he's been trying to work his way back. There's been teams that have been interested over the last couple years. Again, it seemed like the Jets showed, from what Saleh said, if you read between the lines, it seems like Brant Boyer and this coaching staff have been looking into Tarik Cohen for a little while now. Of course, wasn't healthy enough to get back to football over the last 3 seasons, but now they feel can try and get back to what he was. It's crazy to think now, 2019, really already 5 years ago, but if you can get back to some of that potential. It's a 1-year deal. They're taking a flyer. This isn't a move that is going to make or break the Jets season. I think fans want to know that. Tarik Cohen is a pretty known name, I think, throughout. Not well-known, but when he was healthy, when he was with Chicago, I mean, he was a 2018. He was an All-Pro in 2018. He was a Pro Bowler in 2018. First team All-Pro in 2018, by the way. Got to mention that. He's a very good player. He was a very good player when he was healthy. Now he's 3 years older. He's 28. He'll be 29, which is still on the younger side. I guess from his perspective, where he's only really played 4 seasons. So it's not like he's had 6, 7 seasons and he's 29. But at the same time, he's been working his way back. What type of player are you going to getting? He is explosive. He's got a lot of good athleticism, but is all that stuff still going to be there with all the injuries? We'll see. That's why he's here. 1-year deal. It's a flyer. If you can tap into that untapped potential that it feels like, the league's been missing over the last 3 years with him out of it, then, good for you. You found a kind of a diamond in the rough there. So 29 in July. Again, 2018 was very successful. Career-wise, some of his numbers: career rushing, 264 carries, 1,101 yards, 5 touchdowns. Receiving in his career is he's more of a receiving kick returning back than he is actually a rusher. 209 receptions in his career, over 1,500 yards and 9 touchdowns. And in his career as a punt returner, 96 attempts, 985 yards, 1 touchdown. 71 yards was his longest return. And his career as a kick returner is 30 attempts, 628 yards, and 46 was his longest return. So those are his returning numbers, and from both punt and a kickoff perspective. Solid receiving back, very good kick returner, primarily a kick return specialist, a big reason why he was a Pro Bowler in 2018 and a first-team All-Pro in 2018. That year, he had 71 receptions for 725 yards, 5 touchdowns for receiving. All those were career highs. He also had a career high that year in rushing yards and in carries, with 3 rushing touchdowns, career high, 444 yards, career high, 99 carries, career high. So 2018 was a very successful season. The Jets don't need 2018 Tarik Cohen because they have a lead number 1 back in Breece Hall. They also have a number 2 back. It seems like Braylon Allen's really kind of taking over that spot here in OTAs. But if you can find some of that explosiveness, some of that athleticism that he showed in his first 4 years in Chicago when he was healthy, and if he can bring that to a kickoff perspective where he beats Gibson, let's just say, out in camp, or even if he doesn't, and those two guys kind of rotate in and out with each other, there's a lot of explosive, a lot of big play potential between those two. So it's just another name to look out for, another training camp guy to come in, compete. And 2, look, we've talked about the Jets adding a veteran running back. Tarik Cohen not only will get that chance to compete against Gibson, he'll also probably get that chance to compete against Izzy. It seems like the running back room is going to shape out to be Breece, of course, as your 1, Allen and Davis your 2, 3, and in your 4 be a battle between Cohen and Izzy. Who wins that out, we'll see. So Tarik Cohen, New York Jet. Did not think we'd be saying that today, but, this time of year, you always sometimes get some surprising under-the-radar moves. So we'll see. We'll see how it all plays out there for New York and Cohen. All right, now on to Aaron Rodgers, what he did today at the second open media practice, 5th practice overall. He was 11 of 17 overall today, 10 of 12 when targeting anybody but Allen Lazard. So not a good day for the Allen Lazard stock, not a good day for the Allen Lazard believers. Now, it's only the 5th OTA practice. It's May 29th. So I think that's a reminder to not panic or overreact, good or bad, on anything you see. But anytime Allen Lazard's name gets put into the same sentence on a tweet from one of the beat reporters, and in that sentence it has drop in the end zone, it makes you frustrated as a Jet fan, because that's exactly what we saw last year. That's why no Jets fans really like Allen Lazard. That's why we all want to see another veteran in here. So not a good day for Allen Lazard. Rodgers was 1 of 5 when targeting Lazard today. So one of those throws, according to beat reporters, Quantez Stiggers broke up. There was a couple drops from Lazard, a couple plays where they're kind of off. There was the other day, I believe Lazard had a touchdown from Rodgers. So it's like, there's going to be on and off days. But, let's be honest here. After last year, Lazard has got very little. He's got no room for error. Zero room for error in 2024. Anything he does bad, every Jet fan's going to get on him. And rightfully so. He deserves it. He was one of the worst, if not the worst, receivers in football last year. So he gave up on the team. He was kicking soccer balls more than actually catching footballs. So anything this guy does that is bad, like if he drops a pass in training camp, he's going to hear from the fans. It's going to take a lot for Allen Lazard to buy this fan base back. And it was only 1 year. So not a great day for him. Rodgers, though, overall, again, solid day, especially when he targeted people other than Lazard. Some of his completions came to Garrett Wilson, Tyler Conklin, Isaiah Davis, Kenny Yeboah, Braylon Allen. So mixing the ball around, getting it around, and overall, solid day for him. Some other practice notes. Braylon Allen looking really good. Talked about it a little bit a couple minutes ago with the running back room, the way it's shaping out. I think Braylon Allen is actually playing maybe surprising more people. Or playing maybe even better, especially out of the backfield as a receiving back so far through OTAs than many expected. Really dynamic, showing that downhill ability. Really looking like a guy that if he carries this into training camp can be the perfect complement for Breece Hall. Exactly what the Jets were looking for in Braylon Allen. They are seeing 5 practices in. Now, again, 5 practices in. It's May 29th. Not overreacting, but it's a positive sign, and it's all we've got right now, especially when it's a rookie and he's doing well. You've got to get a little excited. You've got to get your hopes up about it because this is kind of what we expected from Braylon Allen when they took him in day number 3. So he looks good. Tyrod as well, backup quarterback alert. Had a touchdown pass to Zach Kuntz, had 2. One of them was to Kuntz. So Tyrod had a pretty solid day there. Kind of doing what a backup quarterback does. He's not, I believe the Kuntz touchdown was a deep one, but Tyrod, from what a lot of the reporters have said over the 2 open media practices, he's kind of taking the safe stuff. He's dumping it off underneath stuff, typical backup quarterback things. I mean, best case scenario, you don't see Tyrod at all out there, but in the event that Rodgers maybe misses a game or 2, that's kind of what you need at a quarterback. Just game manage, let your defense do the work, and try and find a way to win the game. Don't make the crucial mistake, and Tyrod, you trust can do those things. Some defensive stuff here. Quantez Stiger supposedly had a pretty good day today. Was covered up against Lazard a decent amount and was a reason Lazard struggled. So Stiger's continuing to fight, continue to scratch to try and make that roster. Again, rooting for him. His story is really pretty wild, and whether it's with the Jets or another NFL team, I've mentioned that a lot. Just hope that he's successful in some way in the NFL. So good day for him. Quincy Williams also had a pass breakup in the end zone against Yeboah. DJ Reed had a pass breakup against Garrett Wilson. So some of the bigger names there, Quincy Williams, DJ Reed getting involved. Will McDonald today was also winning battles against Carter Warren. He had a pretty good day. However, he tried a spin move on Tyron Smith, and it did not work. So Tyron Smith still got it, even against a young, athletic Will McDonald. Will McDonald could not get past him on a couple of those reps, but he was doing pretty well against those other tackles rotating in. So some of the defensive stuff. Tarik Cohen as well today was already out of practice, number 38. Had a couple rushes, had a couple complete receptions, rather. So he was already out there ready to roll. I think really it feels like this OTAs in general, and again, I'm not there. These are all the beat reporters, but it really feels like this OTAs. You have not heard anything about Izzy Abanikanda. It really feels like it's all been about Braylon Allen, Isaiah Davis, even today, Tarik Cohen. Like, those guys are just getting all the reps. And I believe the other day when the season ticket holders were there, they were saying how Izzy wasn't even rotating in with the first team. Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis were getting reps with the first team. Izzy wasn't even there with the first team. He was getting in, second, third team stuff. So it's really interesting. It feels like Izzy, and again, it's OTAs. And at the end of the day, this won't mean anything once week 1 rolls around. But I just think I don't know. I have this weird feeling that they're just burying Izzy on this depth chart. And they're bringing Tarik Cohen in, and they're going to say, you know what? If you win out the battle, kickoff return, you're going to be slotted as the 4th running back. You could be one of our kick return guys, and Izzy's going to, maybe they'll move on from Izzy. I don't know. It just feels like the Jets, from what they saw to Izzy last year, they clearly weren't impressed. And I know it's only OTAs, but you've heard literally nothing from him It's really interesting. And I have a whole thread. I have a whole Google Doc of all the OTAs notes that we've taken here over the 3 days of when people have covered it. The 2 days of media and then the season ticket holder day as well. I've only been written down in my notes once. He's literally not anywhere to be seen. So really interesting there. But hey, give credit to Braylon Allen and Zay Davis. They're obviously doing enough. And of course, Tarik Cohen as well today. First day on the job and did some things there. Malachi Corley left practice, so a little bit of a scare. You always get one of those scares every once in a while in these practices with a trainer. He came back, was on the sideline doing some stuff on his own, but never then went back into team drill. So it doesn't seem like anything major. But anytime you see a guy get shaken up a little bit in OTA practice in May, gets you a little concerned, especially when it's a guy of Malachi Corley's caliber, where he's a rookie, high expectations, big role this year. But seems everything checked out fine with him. So those are mainly your practice notes. A couple other guys as well spoke to the media. I believe Quinnen spoke to the media. Garrett Wilson spoke to the media. I think there was 2 other guys, and they've slipped my mind of who else spoke to the media this afternoon. But either way, that's day number 5 of New York Jets OTAs. We're getting closer here to mandatory minicamp, which will be July 11th through the 13th, 3-day period there. And then after that, you've got that 40-day period of nothing. And then you come back after that 40 days, and it'll be training camp. So it's getting closer and closer here as each passing day goes by, with only 2 days left in May. So that'll do it for an episode of In the Trenches with Gang Green. I thank you, as always, for joining me. Make sure to please like and subscribe. Well, a lot more content coming your way as OTAs continue. Any other news and notes around the New York Jets, we will have episodes up on it discussing it all. So thank you so much for watching here on YouTube and as well listening on all different podcast platforms. We will talk to you next time. Thanks for tuning in.